I started photography in about like 2014. Um, things were really rough on the island at that time economically, and I first went into it as a form of stress relief. So I think I met you on a photo walk as well during that time when I was just learning how to operate the camera well. But I got into it as a hobbyist, just for something to do and to relieve some stress of all the economic woes that was going on in the territory at the time. But then it, moved into me finding the purpose behind the camera. But it started in like 2014. Well, I decided to go on the path of culture. At first I was just taking portraits, and specifically to women, and not that I don't think well of gentlemen. It's just in my own, world, living my Caribbean identity, women play a large role in my own family, and I saw them propelling, families and community organizations a lot. So I have a lot of affinity to women. But in saying that, women come with a lot of embellishments as well. They tell their identity through fashion. And it wasn't anything to me to see my mother go to the store on Saturdays and wear a madras head tie, or my grandmother ton fungi at home, wear her madras head tie. And I think I was just busy living culture that I didn't even recognize that there was some significance in it that is propelling to the rest of the global community. And then I started to notice those little intricacies, that is what why photography is so important, because it documents a culture and a people. So after you learn to just use the camera well, you have to find the purpose of picking up a camera. And I think slowly but surely I understood the purpose of picking up the camera. So yes, I was able to have my artwork featured on Via's telephone cover book twice, with the second one happened this year. So to the creator, we want to say much appreciation. But I had known Miss Asta as a little girl, as many persons know, from being a storyteller and a musician. Also, I get overlooked, but the community recognizes her importance. And we have to give reverence to Via, especially Miss Jennifer Matarangas King, who is in charge of public relations, because as a Caribbean woman, she recognized that she wanted the telephone book to reflect the culture of the Virgin Islands. And previously she stated, when she spoke to me about the project, that she liked the artwork from the past. However, she thought that we could do something more to reflect the community, and who more so than Miss Asta, who is the center of our masquerading traditions, holds the songs and the rhythms of our Caribbean folk music. So I think it was a good choice that the company picked such a magnificent woman who holds parts of our culture and unlocks so many mysteries for us. Well, this year I have taken a position of the Cultural Education Director with the Department of Education. But I'm saying so because I always try to do something for March, Virgin Islands History Month, like personal projects, as well as something for like Mother's Day and International Women's Month. And I didn't get the opportunity to, because I was doing things not privately anymore, but for a larger institution. And so I was informed, not only do we have a Women's Month, but we have an International Black Women's Movement and Month. And so I geared my project towards that, because International Black Women's Month not just highlights African Americans, but women of color all over the world. And although we have citizenship as being American, some people see their identities as being more Afro-Caribbean, and I thought that felt well in with the statement of International Black Women's Month. And so I just invited like a whole bunch of women who I thought are fabulous, and I extended the invitation on the web. And I was just so pleased by the people who were able to join. As again, as stated, I have such an affinity for women. Again, I think they propel our community so much, especially socially and in the arts. So a real beautiful bunch of women were able to come out, and we made a beautiful video showing about our heritage and how far we've made it even with adversities. Well, I can tell you I was being very selfish at the beginning. I tell people that honestly, during COVID, of course, you know, we were ordered to stay home and safeguard ourselves from other persons. And I took the opportunity to go and visit historical spaces, not just sugar mills. And I went in pretty dresses, you know. I fixed my hair up and I did, you know, my makeup and so forth. And although I think it was an intriguing project, I thought it was also sort of like a selfish project, because I was putting my narrative, who I am, into the space and not really telling the story of that space. And so I had went to many places and I hadn't really did a sugar mill. And then I went to a sugar mill, specifically the Castle Coakley sugar mill, because it's very dominant right now in a very busy part of our island. And previously, before the hurricane, forestry used to actually cover it. So not a lot of persons knew it was there, but the forestry is down. So I went to it, and then I had like this really spiritual experience. And I like to tell people I'm not the most church-going person, and I do open myself to African spirituality, and I'm trying to do that more, but I'm not the strongest practitioner of African spirituality as well. So to have this awakening was just like, wow, like it was a true calling, you know? And I realized, like, to take my selfishness out of the project and not highlight myself, but highlight the erased or hidden persons, and those persons are the African persons. And I get even emotional to talk about it sometimes, because we talk about mixed culture of we have enculturation and creolization occurring, but we don't give enough credit to African people. So even it's a learning journey, and I don't ever say that I know everything. It's a continuous journey that I learned from persons and practitioners already in these studies, that Africans didn't come over or be enslaved and brought over to the Caribbean and was taught trades. They were very highly educated people. They were already artisans and craftsmen. And so when we talk about their contributions to this space, that wasn't by any European means. That was all them. So although there was some kind of map out of how to build the sugar mills, they're the ones who were able to craft it to this environment. Although we see the structures and the beautiful homes, historical homes in our towns, Africans were the ones who made those homes. And again, although it came with its own floor plans, it wasn't actually followed to the T because of different environmental issues, and of course because of what is available here. And even academics say it's not really Georgian, it's not really Victorian, it's in a class of its own. So our structures and the beauty of this island is all like owed to the ingenuity of African people, and that's what this exhibit is about. It's about that. It's about finding our stories in taking out the erasure, taking out the hiddenness, and although it's only a part of our legacy as African people, it's something like colonial trauma that we've always experienced here. We don't talk about it a lot. Children see sugar mills, but they have no idea of the legacies behind of it. We talk about sugar production a lot, but we don't talk about our ancestors, and we don't call their names. And that this exhibit wants to make sure that people call the names and revisit their own colonial trauma and start to ask questions, have conversations. So yeah, when I took my selfishness out of it, I definitely feel like the Ingun, and people know that as the ancestors. I opened myself to listen more. Again, the selfish purposes that we all live for, I think we need to bear a calling for something greater than ourselves. And that's why I keep reiterating to people, like, why I'm not the most devout Christian, so don't think it's because I'm a devout Christian or because I'm such a strong practitioner of African spirituality. I'm none of those, but I still felt something. So that means that other people could be compelled to find things as well, to erase the erasure, to make the hidden unhidden. But we have to open up ourselves to ask those questions, to be open to visit those spaces, to claim back these spaces, to narrate it in a story that makes us great and not oppressed. Well, some of the unique things I found, and I always state that I'm on a journey and I don't know everything, but I find things and I try to have conversations with academics and further open myself to different perspectives. I did find that, 1848 and leading up to 1848, which is emancipation in the Danish West Indies, and like 10 years prior, there was a revolution going on in Europe, and especially Denmark and Hungary and Austria and some surrounding countries, I think maybe as well Norway. They weren't large, even though the Danish government itself was part of the slave trade, there was a large part of their population did not have the same ideas about slavery. And also because those places had exact monarch rule. So monarchies run everything. It wasn't the institutions we know that now that are democratic. And people were working really hard and still not getting anywhere in their countries. And they could understand about what enslaved persons were feeling being in the Danish West Indies, because we also were working hard and not elevating to anywhere. And so there were newspapers that had anti-slavery narratives, and that's how von Schulten as well became a proponent of anti-slavery initiatives. And we have to give thanks to Anna Haggard as well for pushing the plight of people of color in the Danish West Indies. So I will never negate that we took our freedom, and years before that happened within the continental US. But I also want to show that I'm learning about empathy, and that a whole bunch of people was rallying to elevate ourselves and stop being dehumanized by these systems. And so when emancipation came, it wasn't a one thing. It was many initiatives and many articles and many conversations that led to the day of that uprising. So it's just having empathy for all types of people, and that we not judge each other on surface levels all the time. I like the idea and terminology of being a steward of culture. It's only because we can't do it alone. One person can't hold all the information. I think my work, and I hope my work, propels people to get more insight, and that they share their stories and they also be stewards of culture. I think that's why large proponents of our culture has been misunderstood for a long time, because only certain persons held on to those cultures, and when those persons passed away, we only have some sort of ideas about it, and those ideas cause confusion because we're figuring it out. And now it's a time where we can use emerging media to kind of put context into who we are. Because people say they have Virgin Islands pride, but they don't really know the context or be able to narrate what that means. And so we want not just to say it, but to substantiate when we say we have culture, what does that mean? And just this exhibit in trying to make things that are hidden not hidden, and to give reverence to people who have been erased from history, is one part of it. And again, that the narrative of us being oppressed is not the narrative, it's that our ingenuity is what makes us powerful.